And welcome into the OCR Lounge, brought to you by Brown Bottling Group. Today we have a special guest, Athletic Hall of Fame inductee from a 1981 graduate. She'll be inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight. She was part of the first ever girls track championship and played basketball as well, also coached by her sister. Interesting dynamic there that we'll dive into today. But all that and a lot more packed in this podcast, brought to you by Brown Bottling. It's Melanie Booth.
I needed that. But aren't you thirsty too?
Yeah.
Hey, what about your friends?
Your car isn't the only one that's thirsty. Grab a Pepsi, Dew, or Starry for the road.
And welcome Melanie into the show. This is really cool.
Thank you so much. It really is cool.
It's cool in a lot of reasons because I dealt with you last year being a presenter.
Yes.
And now 365, here we are in the Hall of Fame. When you got that call, it's one of those things that I think athletes don't look like. I'm not looking for this phone call. It's kind of like NFL Hall of Fame stuff. You know, Shannon Sharp just told his brother Sterling Sharp that he was inducted and tears flowed. What was that phone call like? Who did you get it from? And what were those emotions?
Well, I was surprised. I felt so honored. The call came from my class of 1981 classmate, Beth Braswell-Yerger, and she was so proud, and we just laughed, and we go right back. You fall right into that comfort zone you have with those, those high school friends. Those high school memories are just the best. And so it was just so wonderful, being a part of it last year when I saw what a class act the Hall of Fame program is, and how things have changed here, and the good things going on at MRA now. Right. Just the whole thing, seeing it last year was special. And then when I got the call this year, I just really feel very honored, and I just appreciate it so much.
Were there any tears of joy?
Oh, yeah.
Any waterworks? Or?
Well, Beth and I both could be a little bit of emotional. So, this is very special.
Well, let's dive into that. You brought up class of 81. I mean, Beth, you, that class seemed to be, and we talked about this in the pre-show, y'all were star status, if you want to get that way. But what was it about that 81 class? Did y'all push each other? Was it a lot of motivation? Was there competitive teammates? There was, we're going to go through all this. There was a lot of accolades. There was a lot of firsts. What was the class of 81 like?
Well, we were small. Our number was only around 60. Okay. That's one thing that I think is significant. We were actually very small, but we actually thought we were really big. We were MRA, and we did push each other. We pushed each other in grades. I mean, I think there were, just ints of percentages on our valedictorian, salutatorian, like the first 6 or 8 of us in the class. We pushed on grades. We pushed in sports. Everybody, we were small then. We were a small private school, so everybody did everything. Wow. And so, there was a lot of competition, but healthy competition because we loved each other. Right. I mean, it was that. This week, as I've thought back, we really had that special small school period, not necessarily just small private school, but small school bond, where you had this group and this group and this group and this group, but we were all one big group. I
think about how excited Beth talks about the class of 81, and to see your face light up with all those memories that, there's sometimes you won't talk to somebody for 7 months, but then you get the phone call and it takes you right back to that moment. So you are being inducted to the Athletic Hall of Fame. Let's talk about some of those accolades in athletics. I'm getting into it, but the first thing, that you're a captain of the girls basketball team, and I talk about this a lot with our kids today. Being named team captain is one of the highest honors, because it's not really how good you are as an athlete or a player, but it goes back to they're a teammate that holds me accountable, they're disciplined, they motivate me, all those things. You get the best of both worlds, amazing athlete and a team captain in that realm of holding people accountable. What led to that? Was there anything you growing up, of maybe your parents instilled in you? How about that?
Well, I have a very competitive spirit, period. So, I can remember in 7th grade, I can remember Coach Smith was our 7th grade basketball coach. And I was so tenacious. I had such a tenacious spirit that one day he said, Melanie, you can't, he called me Maloney actually, he said, you can't just go barreling down through the lane, knocking everybody down to get to the goal. They call that an offensive foul. And of course, you could hear a pin drop in the gym, and then all of a sudden he bent over, slapped his leg, and started laughing, and everybody else started laughing too. But the point of that is that I just always started out, and I wanted everybody to be as passionate about it as I was. We were going to learn this, figure this out. I wanted everybody to have this passion, drive.
Yeah. As you're saying all that, I go back to Michael Jordan. And how he pushed his teammates. And I go back and I look, and we talked about team captain, but winning all district, all county, all star, numerous all tournament team titles, all those types of things. Did you ever push, like, how you're going to go, as the kids say, 100? You're going to go 100. Was there ever a moment that you had to, like, come on, you're coming with me? Like, I'm not going to let you be less than 100 to some of your teammates.
Oh, yeah. Well, back in the day, Coach Weaver, we didn't have travel ball, and we didn't have individual coaching sessions and all that. So we were all learning it together. But now we also had great coaches. And then even bigger, back to that small school experience, our teachers pushed us. Our teachers pushed us in class. They were part of our athletic family too. When the gym was open, when we had games, everybody showed up, so everybody pushed. And so, I can't think of some time when I feel like somebody was slacking or whatever, but we helped each other.
Yeah.
And and obviously back in the day, not everyone that was on the team had all the athletic abilities. They haven't been groomed since they were 5 and 6 years old to be that post or that point guard or whatever. And so we had to, be a team. We had to
So
work
love
together.
of basketball.
Absolutely.
When did that start?
My older sisters played basketball. I'm the baby of 4 girls. I have a sister that's 17 years older, one that's 15 years older, and one that's 9 years older than I am. And all 3 of those played high school basketball, and my sister, who later was my coach, also played at the college level at MUW at the time, MSCW.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and my mother loved it. My mother played basketball at East Central Community College. So it was in the family, it was in the genes. And I was a scrawny little fella back in the day, so maybe I had to try a little harder.
Right.
And so that played into it as well. But I loved it. I've always loved it.
What position did you play?
I was a guard.
What'd you average per game?
19 points.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it wasn't all about that, but I wish we had had a 3-point line.
I was going to ask, like, if you would have had a 3-point line, would that have? Because they do say that girls' shots are a lot better than boys' shots. How you keep your elbow in, and the form's a lot better with girls' shots.
Well, I practiced a lot, and of course, that's it. But I think one of the reasons that I made as many as I did is because nobody would guard me, because my favorite shot was on the baseline. And they're like, she's not going to shoot from out there. She can't make it from out there. So, and
that's impressive.
Also, just like I said, just wanting it, just being tenacious.
We're going to have to go take some shots after this. We're going to go take some shots.
No.
Yeah. So let's go into this girls basketball team that won the district and was 24-0. We talked about it a little bit in the pre-show, who all was also undefeated. Talk about that season, how that went.
We worked so hard, and it was so fun, because you have to realize that early on in the 70s, we had a couple of good girls basketball teams. But coming into that 1979, 80, 81, we were really kind of coming into our own, and we've been playing together, since 6th grade, basically. And so that was our year. And we had good shooters, we had good fast guards. Those my teammates that ran track with me also played basketball with me, and so that was just our year. And we were on a 26-0 run, and unfortunately we did not peak at tournament time. We had a very reputable tournament season, but we should have won it all that year. That should have been the first girls state championship in basketball as well. But
Wow.
but we were defeated by Jackson Prep, of course, who always had those 24-0 seasons. We were defeated by the Dynasty from Grenada Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Carol Ross, Polly Branch that year. Polly Branch was just a junior that year. Of course, you know, she went on to play at Mississippi State.
That's right.
So the games we lost were reputable games to lose, but gosh, I wish we could have won it all.
Is there any way to look at that as you look back now? Has that maybe been the team that kind of set up the dynasty of what could come of girls basketball?
I really think it is. And I'm not trying to take too much credit for us.
No, but your class of 81, I mean, you go back and you look back in the files of class of 81, like,
yeah,
star-studded.
yeah.
So do you think that's a catapult?
I do. I really do. Because, you know, you have to establish that culture that you can do it.
Correct.
And we knew that we could do it. And we worked hard to do it. And like I said, I don't know, you could look back in the records, but, you know, 26-0, there was a lot of pressure there, and we took that seriously. So, yeah, I think we helped set that culture. And then, I mean, the rest is history. I can't believe all the state championships and everything that happened pretty shortly after that class of 81. And the very next year, I think, was the first time ever in the preseason polls and all the way through Christmas, the next year's team was ranked #1 in the state.
Wow. So this would have been your senior year.
My
when y'all
senior
did
year.
this.
Mm-hmm. And then the very next year, they had a #1 ranking through Christmas until
there you go.
January
There you
of
go.
that season.
You had to set up. A lot of teams look for the gold medal, the gold ball, but y'all had to lay a foundation. So let's go back 2 years. Sophomore year.
Yes.
Somebody very special to you
Yes.
was also holding the whistle
Yes.
at a practice.
Yes.
Tell us about that whole dynamic.
So my big sister Brenda, you know, I told you about the hierarchy of mother's 4 girls, as she called us. She was 15 years older, and she moved back in the area. Was getting her PhD. It was the civics and the Mississippi history teacher, and then was also the basketball coach. And so that was my 10th and 11th grade year. And of course, she held us all to a very high standard. She was very intense, you know. You could imagine. She held us all to a really high standard.
Did she hold you to a different standard?
She always knew my potential
Okay.
in whatever I was doing. And she always knew how intense. So she pushed me, but she also knew how to handle me because I pushed myself so hard. First time I made a B, and I was like my second year in college, I made a B, and I called her, and I was upset, and she goes, good for you, now that's done, let's move on. So that's the way she knew that I was pushing myself hard, so she pushed us. And a funny story there, she was a teacher as well, and we both had the same haircut. We looked a lot alike, we still do today. And so looking alike, I would sneak into the teacher's lounge, 5th period, and get a Coke. Because the only teacher that was in the teacher's lounge during 5th period was our librarian, Mrs. Cleveland. And I think this was like her 3rd retirement job, just saying.
This is awesome.
So I could sneak in, which I didn't really think was sneaking in, and get a Coke, say hi to Miss Cleveland, and she thought I was my sister. She thought I was Coach Hankins. Finally, somebody ratted on me, and well, the rest is history. I didn't get any more Cokes, and I almost didn't get to start that basketball game when Coach Hankins figured out I was being deceitful there. But anyway, it was fun being in the halls, and it was fun playing for her as well.
Was there ever any tension maybe during a timeout of you're thinking like we need to run this play or this set?
No.
It was always Coach, not sister, but Coach
Absolutely.
and Melanie.
And it's one thing I say even today, I'm coachable. I'm very coachable. I'm a pleaser. So just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do my best to do that for you. And so
I want to say that athletes that are listening to this, take that as a note of be coachable. That's going back in the day, like there wasn't all these self-help, how to get better at basketball or this or apps or that. It's be coachable because your coach knows what's best for you because they see you all the time at practice. So take note of that. anything else with basketball that kind of just sticks out before we jump into this track career, and then we're going to go into your professional career and then just how MRA's changed? Is there anything in basketball that has kind of stood out to you of, I wish I would have done this different, or I wish we would have got that championship, or is there anything like that in basketball for you at MRA?
Well, I wish we'd
Like a
won it all.
regret maybe?
Well, a regret. I didn't have my best senior game in the overall state tournament against Jackson Prep. Of course, that's always those regrets,
Yeah.
And be careful not to come out flat after a big game, and that's what happened with us. And so I'm regretful. We could have beat Jackson Prep. Sorry, y'all, we just could have. And back in the day, that was a big deal.
Yeah, it still is today.
So I'm just really regretful. We should have won it all for our fans, for our coach, for each other. Hey, what kind of athlete would I be if I didn't regret
That's
not
right.
winning it all, right?
That's right. I mean, you think about the greats that go through that of, man, I wish I would have done this different. I would have done this different, or maybe I should have ate the same breakfast I did the night before or whatever, for those people that are superstitious. But I think that's so awesome that your class, and I've heard about your class for a long time. I'm in my 14th year here, but I hear about your class a lot of just being the star-studded one that kind of put MRA on the trajectory of where it is today. And that's really cool to hear and to sit in front of you and hear these types of stories. Another key component and milestone that's dear to my heart, I'm the head boys track coach, but you go back and your class again won the first ever girls track championship in school history. So another, notch, check mark for class of 81.
Yeah.
Talk us through, was it a lot getting out? I mean, this is your senior year. A lot of people don't run track their senior year at all. Take us through that season, because there was like 9 of y'all.
Yeah. And it was a great team, and we had some young athletes that were coming up from junior high, that were young, that were fast, and that were part of team. But we worked really hard. And the interesting thing about that season, Coach Weaver, to my knowledge, MRA's girls track had never won a track meet.
Wow.
And guess when we decided to win a track meet?
I'm hoping you say prep.
Absolutely. 2 weeks before the state championship, 2 or 3 weeks. That
Yeah.
season is so crammed there in the spring. But 2 or 3 weeks before that state championship, we won the prep relays. Who would have thought that?
Wow.
And of course, we were track and field too. Whereas
Right.
in the past, we could have some fast runners, but not the field events. And,
Right.
and so we were an integrated team. I mean, I could name everybody off, but go look them up. Because that's a great picture too, because it's very 80s.
Yeah.
We all have cute 80s.
Debbie
here.
Field was on that
Debbie,
team.
Nancy Messer did our shot and our discus. They did great. Lisa Cottrell was a state champion long jump.
Wow.
I could name them all out. The sprinters, Lori Dennison. Anyway, just great. Wendy Watts. Just great athletes. So it was a team. But we won prep relays, and everybody just freaked out, because that's when everybody said, "Oh my, we were definitely the underdog."
Yeah.
So once we did that, it was like, "Hey, what can we do? Can we do this?"
To put you on the trajectory of
For the championship.
yeah, so take basketball for instance, this is that gear of motivation, let's put our focus and attention to this. So I'm reading through this. You win the prep relays. You set up and you win the state track meet. What event?
It came to the wire. It came all the way down. The last event back in the day, I don't know if
It still is.
It
So
still is.
everybody that's watching this and listening to this, the mile relay,
this.
she's getting goosebumps.
I am.
The mile relay is kind of the pinnacle of, look, to this day, even in 2015, when we won the first boys state track championship, I go and sit in the bleachers with Mr. Land. He says, "Are you going to win the mile relay?" My answer is Does it matter? Like, we just won after the 200. Does it matter? And to him, it does matter. So seeing the chill bumps that you have about this race. So set up that whole race, because this is one of those cool things. 4 people, 1 lap apiece equals a mile. Take it over.
Yes. Well, the pressure coming into this. I mean, at the beginning of the season, if you'd have said you're going to be in a position to win a state championship, the coach and the teachers and everybody would have gone, yeah, right. So the pressure going in, but we knew we could do it. And I ran my record time, and I think everybody else did too. I mean, we had.
What leg were you?
I was second. I was the second leg, because we had a real strong. I was the weakest link in that in that relay. I was strong, but I wasn't the fastest one. Yeah. But I had worked hard also to get there. So sprints were my thing, not the 400. But anyway, that was an amazing. That is to this day. That is probably the most significant physical feat of my life, is running that. And I ran it in a 63.
Yeah.
By today's standards, that's
still fast. That is still fast.
That's not that great.
That is still fast. 63 seconds is still fast.
It was fast enough for that day.
Yeah.
And it was a personal best for me. So it was.
How about the jubilation afterwards?
It was amazing.
You won the race. You had to win the race to win the meet.
We won the race, won the meet. It was it. State champs. It was.
Can you go back to that day just for a second?
Oh, I'm there. Can't you see it in my face?
Like,
Man, this is so fun.
when you cross the finish line, you have the baton, and you know you won.
Yeah, we were ecstatic. You asked about the tears.
Yeah.
You know, we were, of course, those of us who had just run the race. You know, I appreciate watching the athletes in the Olympics where they just fall out on the track.
And they can't feel their legs.
Right. But to know that we won. And it wasn't so much that we were thinking, oh, this is the first time that it wasn't so much thinking, oh, we could lay the groundwork or we could get our first championship. It was, we can win this race. Yeah. And if we win this race, we can win this championship for MRA. And we did. That's awesome. It was just, like I said, you see me getting animated because
I love it.
Just,
I love it. Track's near and dear to my heart, as you know. But you didn't just run. You weighed what, 90 pounds, 95 pounds? And you threw the shot and you threw the discus.
Well, now that was early in career.
Okay.
That was before our other athletes bulked up and kind of caught up with my determination. See, I was throwing the shot and the discus on sheer determination and 90 whole pounds. But Susie Kelty was on that team, and I think she and
Hall of
Nancy
Fame
Messer. Yeah. And they did the field events, so they were doing that by that time. They caught up with me, but I was cheering them on. I even did the high jump in junior high.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Favorite event in track? Not the 400.
No, it was not the 400. The 800. I was a leg on the 800 relay as well.
Wow.
And that was we called it the 220 back
the
in the
220,
day.
you ran the 880, the 220, the 440.
Exactly. Yeah. So the 220 was my favorite.
That's awesome.
And sometimes I ran that as an individual, but not every time because we had some good sprinters too. That's probably my favorite one.
So I guess
it's funny because if you'd asked me back in the day what my favorite sport was, of course I'd say basketball. You know that whole thing about track. You know, your sport's my sport's punishment.
Right. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
So
posing the question to you: basketball, track. You put them.
Basketball.
Basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. To this day.
Yeah. Randy Lester
Still
said
Lady
the same
Bulldogs.
thing. Randy Lester said the same thing. You know, he ran track here, has a state record, and I asked him. I said, "All right, of all the sports." Football, track, whatever. He goes, football. That's interesting to see y'all do that because track is as a sport back then that you did to have something to do in the spring to get you ready back for your other sport. So that's awesome. That is awesome. Now our girls, you've seen it. They've won 6 in a row. Six in a row.
Awesome.
And you'll have a chance to meet Melanie.
Actually, I've already gotten a hug today.
You hugged Melanie.
She was the basketball coach at Mississippi Baptist when I was in high school, and so we still had that connection. I had to stick my head in the gym just then.
Yeah.
And so she was standing right there.
Yeah.
And
Melanie, the Melanie we're talking about is Melanie Black, our girls track and field coach now currently. So let's talk about, we're talking about a lot about athletics. You were a smart student as well. You excelled in the classroom. Talk us through the academic rigor that MRA had.
It prepared me for college. You know, again, you look back at our size and at what you would have thought would have been our resources, and from the outside looking in, you might not have thought it was the prep school that it was, but it was. And we had great teachers. Our English teachers pushed us hard. Our math, we had great teachers that actually prepared us.
That's awesome.
And like, you know, we mentioned earlier, we were achievers too. And so, man, when it got time to take the test, everybody wanted to make the highest score, and so we studied together. I mean, we had good habits. I didn't realize what good habits that I had until I got to college, and I didn't realize how good my teachers had been. And some of them are still around.
Did you ever give your sister that credit?
I did not have her.
Okay.
She taught the 9th and 10th grader. You know, she taught the younger ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could tell some great stories. If we had, 3 sessions, I could tell some great stories. You know, it did my heart so good. Last year I saw Miss Braswell.
Yeah.
In our art department for a small school back then, we were prepared and we didn't even know it. So the academics, and I know the standards are still high today, but I was very blessed coming from a small private school, going to college. And you got to realize, Coach Weaver, I think our total school population was maybe 600.
Wow.
K through 12.
So now it's 14, 20?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we really were small. We were double A.
That log cabin? Was it the log cabin?
Yeah.
Kindergarten? Yeah. Yeah. So some
But we didn't even have kindergarten.
Oh. It's
Or
just first through?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So I'm going to read some of these.
Okay.
Just beyond athletics, academics, we just talked about earning top honors, student leadership, most athletic, no-brainer, after the things we've just heard, most versatile, and class favorite. What do you attribute those to? Say the class favorite one, because that's voted on by your peers.
I just loved everybody. Yeah. We had fun. We really, I know you look back on it and everything just looks like, everything looks so rosy, but we had fun. Folks belonged.
Yeah.
It's funny, Coach Weaver, I posted, I'm not a big social media person. I'm terrible, actually. All you see on there are things about my grandchild and about my job. I'm a sommelier, so it's about wine and grandchildren, right? I posted that invitation because I wanted, if there was anybody out there that could come.
Right.
I got like over 100 comments, and it was so good. I heard from so many people, and not just the athletes in our class or in our time, but just so many folks that were like, oh yeah, this is great, I'd love to be there, congratulations. Awesome. So going back to answer your question, we were community, we were family. So I think, I'm still happy about being class favorite, of course, because I loved everybody. But it was because I think we were inclusive.
Yeah.
I think.
There's a fun part that we're fixing to talk about. We talked about you being most athletic. Talked about being team captain, being a leader. Class favorite, most versatile. Mm-hmm. You were a manager on the football team.
Yeah. Yes.
That's about as versatile as it gets.
Yes.
When you're balancing basketball practice, academics, you're like, you know what? I'm going to be a manager for the football team. Mm-hmm. What led to that?
Just to be a part of it. Football was fun. The coach was my driver's ed teacher. Yeah. The guys that I loved, in my class were football players.
So not a cheerleader?
Well, one time, 9th grade.
Okay. Doing
those little dances in front of everybody.
Not for you?
Not well. It was okay. It was a good experience, and I'm so proud of my girls who did it for me.
Right.
And we'll talk about that tonight too. But that was enough of that. But to be out there, we rode the bus.
Yeah.
We rode the bus.
I think it shows your
two girls. We
your
rode the
competitive
bus.
spirit, though.
Yeah, it was.
That
just
goes
fun.
back to your competitive spirit of, I want to be around a competition, no matter what it was.
It was fun, and
That's
it was a
awesome.
great opportunity. How wonderful that they let us do that.
Yeah, my son got to travel this year. He's 8, and he had thought he had died and gone to heaven, seeing all those big guys. Then my daughter was like, "Can I go to the game?" I was like, "You can go with your mom." You can go with your mom. So that's cool. That is really cool. As we progress into this, MRA's changed a lot. What do you notice about the changes from 78 to 81 to 21 to 24?
Well, let me just tell you. So you mentioned earlier my first experience here in a while was last year. We were walking from the multipurpose building to the gym. I had to look at Beth and Connie and Tish and say, where are we? This is amazing. I mean, just the facilities. I'm so proud of, and I know how it comes about. Not only, you know, I told you earlier, I had one child that graduated from Starkville Academy,
Right.
and I was on the school board there. And I had one child graduate from Starkville High School, and I was very involved there. It takes a lot to have a successful, either a private school or a public school. It takes a lot, and the way that tradition, or whatever you want to call it, y'all have continued to build and to build and to improve and to improve.
Well, thank you.
And the worst thing was I couldn't figure out how to get in the parking lot, but you know, we're locked down good here, folks.
We are.
We're safe here.
We are. All right, so post high school, you go to Mississippi State. Any college basketball aspirations?
You know, I was in a hurry. You can imagine this. I was very achievement oriented. I was ready to get out of college, and so
Yeah.
I graduated in college in 3 years, and so I pushed really hard for that. I was just ready to move on, but we did win my sorority, my fraternity sorority, Zeta Tau Alpha, a good plug there. Won a lot of intramural championships with that group of athletes, and some of them were some of my teammates from MRA.
So you're
too.
an intramural champion.
Yes.
There you go.
Surprisingly, not in basketball, flag football.
Flag football.
I don't know. See those years
Of
on the bus?
being the manager
See?
and riding the bus, hearing the coaches talk about plays like, hey, I remember we were driving to Washington. The coach was talking about this. I think it'll work on the intramural field.
I think it'll work.
There you go. So you're in Starkville now.
Yeah.
Love it.
Fabulous Stark Vegas.
Yeah.
I tell everybody, you know,
Bulldog through and through.
I was one of those crazy students that came to Mississippi State and refused to ever leave the town. So I've seen a lot there as well.
So my kids love Starkville.
Well, yeah.
Love it. So it's really cool. We go up to a lot of basketball games. We're going to go to some baseball games. Went to 2 football games this year. So they love it. But graduated with top honors again. Summa cum laude. I mean, the list goes on and on. So what do you do now? Let's talk about what you do now, because I think it's unique. I think it's cool. I'm a wine drinker. Red wine.
Yes, fantastic.
With my steak.
you'll
Red
have-
wine with my steak.
Absolutely. You'll have to come to one of my classes. So this is my fun career. That's what I tell everybody. This is my second career.
What was your first career?
In engineering. My degree was in management with a minor in communication, so my job in the partnership with my my ex-husband was to manage the business, and we were an engineering company. Did really well for about 30 years, and then I began to study and get certifications in wine education. I've always been a wine enthusiast. Back to my older sisters, they taught me to drink good. Particularly the one who coached me in basketball taught me to drink good Napa Cabernet Sauvignon when I should have been enjoying, I don't know, White Zinfandel, Strawberry Hill. So anyway, always been an enthusiast, and so then I wanted to learn, and you know, I wanted to teach, and so I took the route, got my Certified Specialist of Wines certification and a sommelier certification as well, and taught classes through Mississippi State and through MUW's Culinary Arts Institute. I've done some stuff for Southern. Anyway, I love doing private events. I do wine and food pairing events. I do some consulting, wedding wine consulting. Anyway, wine's just fun. Wine's just fun. And I tell my students, now I have students in class, y'all, from 21 to 80. Okay? So this is not
Big
just
spectrum.
Exactly, and this is a continuing education now, not only in person but online as well.
Oh wow!
So their experiences, but I tell my students, I'm not teaching you to drink. You can go down to Rick's. You can go to the bar to do that.
Right.
Wine is culture in a bottle. If you don't appreciate that glass of wine for where it came from that family who grew the grapes and those people who made it happen to get to you. I mean, what better way, Coach Weaver, to have Italian culture on your dining room table for $20?
That's right.
So that's what I teach. So I always say, I'm not teaching you to drink, people. I want you to learn to appreciate this beautiful glass of wine.
I love how you say wine is culture.
Oh, it is.
So I think about, like, the older the wine, the better it is. So it brings me back to that old country song, Dust on the Bottle.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever talk about, like, the aging of the wine and all that stuff with your classes?
Absolutely. But here's what you need to know. And if you took, especially if you take my new online class, you'll learn this. Plug, shameless plug.
We'll plug.
Most of the wines that we get to enjoy today are meant to be enjoyed between 2 and 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Even those that are considered luxury wines, they have the capability to lay on their side for a long time, and they will, especially the better ones. You know, in the wine bar we have Opus One, we have Soul of the Lion, we got Cake Bread. You know, we got really Bordeaux's that'll age, but for the most part, go ahead and enjoy that bottle of wine from 2 to 5 years.
Wow. Our producer, Alan, let's take a note for that. Just when we get it, it's 2 to 5 years. All right, you had some fans that were your cheerleaders when you grew up that were cheering you on. Who are your biggest fans now? Your children?
Yeah, probably so. And still my family, my sisters.
Yeah.
You'll see, I wish everybody could come to the Hall of Fame induction, not for me tonight, but because this is going to be like a reunion. I'm so excited. But my family still has their little buttons that say...
They're wearing them tonight?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes.
That say, my sister is number 33, Melanie. My aunt is. I mean, and, you know, my goodness. My family still.
I talk about this a lot. So my 2 favorite events on campus: signing day for our student athletes, and that's the Hall of Fame induction. Those 2 are like highlights. You get to see the generation that's going on to play and have achieved those accolades, and you hear their stories about who motivated them, who drove them to be the best they could be, and then to see y'all come back and to hear the stories of this coach pushed me, these fans did this, my teammates did this. That's 2 of the things.
And I hope you're hearing that from me.
Oh, you are?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because it's fun. It's fun when you're this far out of high school to say, oh, I did this and I did that and I did this. But really what it comes down to is that support that I know I had that pushed me to be my best.
Well, let's talk about your 3 support. I mean, it's Beth and Tisha.
Yes. So.
Let's talk about those 2, because Beth lit up when she was like, she wants me to introduce her. And I was like, I kind of knew that before. I didn't want to let that cat out the bag. But it's such a unique thing for her to work down the hall from me. But to see her like, my friend Melanie is getting inducted. And you can go back and see her being like the cheerleader mode.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, when I called, I got Connie Williamson, Tisha Smith Green, and then, you know, Beth Braswell Yerger. I texted them and I said, can we do a FaceTime? And because last year we met up at the previous Hall of Fame induction, and it was like we hadn't skipped a year.
Right.
It was the funniest thing. Tisha even said, Melanie, you even walk like you used to. I'm like, how did I used to walk? How do I walk
Are you
now?
judging how I walked? What?
So anyway, we just connected, and so I texted them, and I said, can we have a FaceTime call? And I'm sure they were like, what's going on? And so I got all three of them on the phone at one time, and I said, you know, any good athlete knows you can't get where you're going without a group of good cheerleaders. And so as my cheerleaders, when I got to thinking about it, I don't remember a time whether we were on the football field or at the track or in the gym, that those three girls that I'm talking about here and those two that are going to be up there tonight were not there to cheer me on. And of course in high school you're not really thinking about how crazy great that is. And there are others too. The 81 Lane Laster, she lives far away now, but in that whole group of cheerleaders, they were always there for us.
So you're like a long-lasting fan club type deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Well, and I'm their fans.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's fun to see. Like it's fun to see this whole dynamic.
Mm-hmm. It's been a long time. Did these people understand 1981 was a hot minute ago? Don't say how many years.
I won't.
That's a long time.
It's my age.
See?
So if you know how old I am.
Okay. All right. Feeling a little old here.
All right. So you said something about your pen. You wore the number 33.
I did.
Why 33?
Double numbers are a thing in our family. My big sisters were 22. My brother-in-law, that I consider a brother, his number was 44. And so obviously I wanted 22, but when I started in 7th grade, 22 wasn't available, and so I picked 33, and we stuck with it. My daughter went on to play, and she was number 11, and so we're just a double number family. My cousin was 22, so anyway, and
awesome.
33 is still my favorite number. If you want to steal any of my pens, you know, I'm just giving you a hint there.
Double number family. I love it. I was thinking when I saw 33, I was like, Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Like this is.
Yeah.
Thought there was some
Back in the day, Tony Dorsett. See, yeah.
There it
Again,
is.
I'm telling my age. Sorry about that.
As you go back and you look back at your high school career, what's the one thing I'm trying to frame this up the best way possible, to go back and tell your high school self from right now, to go tell your high school self, Melanie, make sure you do this.
Mm-hmm. Something interesting that's come out of this experience. You know, Beth said, I've got some annuals, but, you know, send me some more information because I can't remember everything. Yeah. And the interesting thing, all those details that we thought were so important, all district, all conference, all this, straight A's, all that we thought were so important then, when I went back and tried to remember, I can't even remember them. Push yourself, do your best, Melanie, but also take a breath, enjoy where you are, enjoy these experiences as an athlete because they're teaching you more than you realize, you know. Soak it up, be appreciative, and not that I wasn't, but just, you know, be where your feet are. Yeah. There's a famous Alabama football coach that says that.
Absolutely.
And I even, Coach Weaver, I kind of, on a diversion here, I even use that in my wine classes. The toast that I use in my wine classes, my signature toast, is "Here's to being here." And that's to remind us to be in the moment. I had a friend of mine that I call a Japanese exchange agent, and she taught me a phrase that they use in Japanese tea ceremonies. It's "Ichigo Ichie," and she translated it into once in a lifetime opportunity. But I tell my wine students that this is a lesson for life too. It's not just for what's going on here, but if you think about it, we really only have one opportunity to be in this place at this time, doing this thing with these people. So you really should be present. You really should be in the moment. You really should enjoy it. And that's what I've done with this whole thing. I really have. I'm so appreciative. And so as a reminder, I say, you know, here's to being here. Even high school Melanie, I should have taken that lesson because things go by so fast. Yeah. Don't always, and I'm still guilty of it, don't always try to be getting to the next thing and not actually being, again, not actually being where your feet are. So
yeah,
that's what I'd go back and tell these guys.
Yeah,
take a breath.
Yeah, take a breath. That's great advice for young athletes or really anybody who's listening to this podcast. If you're a CEO of an organization, here's to being here.
Here's to being here.
Yeah. Anything else as we close up?
I just want to say thank you. And I just want to say, you know, keep doing what you're doing, because here's what's going to happen. Are you ready? One day, somebody's going to be standing up there being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and they're going to say, you know what? It was that Coach Weaver. It was that Miss Yerger. It was, you know, it was that person that put me on the trajectory or made me feel the importance of who I was and what I was doing. Yeah. And you have to do, that's not my job, man.
Right.
I can teach you to appreciate wine,
right.
but you have to do that every day with these young people.
Well,
and so I encourage you.
It's an incredible charge and challenge. So thank you.
Keep up the good work is what I'd say. Everybody here.
Yeah.
Go Patriots.
Thank you. Well, I have definitely enjoyed this conversation and look forward to more conversations as we progress and as we talk about tonight and stuff like that. So thank you for joining us in the OCR Lounge today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, Lurk, how about you join us in spring training this year for a shot at this year's team?
Can you get out of my house?
It's Lurk the Leak's first season on the outside.
Where have you been all these years?
And he's still a little wet behind the ears.
This leak is out of control. There's no stopping him.
How'd you get in here?
Why did anybody think this is a good idea?
I don't know.
Starring Michael Deere and Lurk the Leak in Major League. Now roofing in a city near you.
And that was Melanie Booth here in the lounge. Just an amazing treat. Going back just to the end of what you just heard of here's to being here. Just such a 4 words to cement a lot of times where we try to progress to the next thing of just being present. What an amazing charge and a challenge she has, not only to our listeners, but to our student athletes and everybody. The appreciation of wine. You know, wine is just culture, and take time. I think about that of the here's to being here. Like let that wine sit for its best, because a lot of times your best work is not now; it's in the future. To her basketball career, where she was the most athletic, she led the girls basketball team to that runner-up status that put the MRA girls basketball program on a trajectory of being prominent here in the MIAS, which was called the MPSA. And then if you look at it, her class also star-studded, claimed the first ever track championship in the mile relay. One of those things that it's not over till it's over, and they, on the last event, won the first ever girls track state championship. But just really enjoyed my conversation with Melanie today. I hope you did too. But thank you again for listening to the OCR Lounge, brought to you by Brown Bottling.